Joining us to assess this year's observances is Sara Yael Hirschhorn, a visiting professor at the University of Haifa in Jerusalem. Sara, good to see you again. Now, the interim ruling of the UN International Court of Justice on Friday, weighing down on Israel, accusing it of potentially committing genocide against Palestinians. How does that sit for Israelis the day before the country remembers the genocide of 6 million Jews?
Well, I think we should first be aware that one of the main legal figures representing the state of Israel is the former Chief Justice of the Israeli High Court, which is the Israeli Supreme Court, Aaron Barak, who himself is a Holocaust survivor. And he denoted very poignantly in his objection to the majority ruling that as a person who had survived the Shoah himself and had now experienced alongside the country the terrible destruction of 10/7, the single deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust, that he felt a real moral obligation and imperative to repudiate the South African charges that were brought to the International Court of Justice because of his own experience of the Holocaust as an Israeli citizen.
Now, of course, the same day, the UNRWA is accused of collaborating with Hamas. If the details of these allegations are correct, where does that put Israel in terms of who they can turn to if their confidence has been lost in the UN?
Well, I have to say, I think the confidence was lost in the UN long ago, long before these revelations these most recent revelations came to light. There's been a great deal of evidence in the last decade, if not more, of UN subversion of aid, of allowing tunnels and military arms to be held in schools and other UN facilities, and the general facilitation of the UN of the regime of Hamas. Now, it's true that the UN really has no choice because it operates in the Gaza Strip, which is controlled by Hamas and is responsible for delivering the core humanitarian services of a terrorist-backed government. Yet still, I think Israel has been very concerned for a very long time with the engagement of the United Nations and its role there, and even is concerned that despite the urgent need of humanitarian supplies and the flow of goods into the Gaza Strip, that the UN is not a partner that really can be trusted on the political level.
Talk a little bit about how you think biases of people held in the 30s and 40s may have changed, not just in terms of being anti-Jewish, but anti-human in general. Do you think that we have evolved and become more tolerant despite the horrific conflict in Gaza right now?
Well, I think on the whole, humanity and civilization has tried to repair itself since the evils of the Second World War, though we've seen many other genocides and other terrible things that have happened around the world, and not just in Israel-Palestine. But I have to say that I think that there is a specific and enduring animus towards Jews, sometimes coded as, Zionism or Israelis, but really often is intended to speak to anti-Semitism and Jew hatred that may have evolved and taken on new guises in a new era, but really is the same old Jew hatred that has been known for centuries, if not all of human civilization. I have to say, on a personal note, I've been absolutely disgusted by seeing people around the world ripping down the posters of hostages and even defacing, the photos of young children and elderly people being held by a terrorist organization, being held by Hamas. And this, I think, doesn't speak well for humanity's evolution since the Holocaust.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Sara Yael Hirschhorn, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me on.